Welcome to this webinar series on Amazon Japan. We are doing this series with some really cool people, and today we have Ed Thompson, who is a marketing consultant in Japan, and we have really exciting things to talk about today. As you know, the goal of this webinar series is basically to help sellers who have been selling on Amazon in various marketplaces like US, UK, and others, and are looking to expand their operations to Japan. So as you all know, it's not easy. There's a bunch of steps that you need to kind of go through in order to be successful on Amazon. And so our goal is to kind of help you bridge that gap. And we're bringing a lot of information to you so that it's not as intimidating as it might seem. So a quick intro. My name is Ritu Java, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of PPC Ninja. We specialize in Amazon PPC advertising, both software and services, and consulting. And my guest today is Ed Thompson. So I'm going to just stop talking here and hand the stage over to Ed. So Ed, if you could just introduce yourself, maybe tell us a little bit about your amazing backdrop, and we'll get the ball rolling here. So over to you.
Hello, everyone. It is very nice to make your acquaintance. I am very happy to be a guest here with PPC Ninja to talk about entering the Japanese market for their variety of clients that they have. And as a background, I am originally from Dallas, Texas, and I have been in Japan for more than 2 decades, working in advertising and marketing with my own creative consultancy called Concept Design. As you can see, Japan is full of very interesting and exotic type of things that you are very familiar with, whether it's samurai or calligraphy. But it is also a very modern city, as you will see in imagery from, say, Akihabara and other places throughout downtown Tokyo, a city of neon. And so I hope to cover some of the interesting characteristics of the country, the people, and of course, the shoppers that you are all after.
Yeah, thank you so much for that intro. I absolutely love your backdrop. Do you want to tell us a little bit about where you are? Like, what is this, what do you have on your right and your left? It's like so intriguing. Let's hear from you. Yeah.
And so this is actually a venue that is located to the north side of Tokyo, near the Tokyo Skytree. And the Tokyo Skytree is one of the 2 major towers that we have here in Tokyo. And this area is called Shitamachi, or downtown. And it's actually a multi-purpose event space. And the room has tatami mats. And as you can see from the samurai armor that we have here to the side, they are trying to recreate some of the imagery that you would have in the traditional types of samurai houses, along with artistic calligraphy off to the other side. And so this event space serves as a cultural hub for people in the local community here in Northern Tokyo.
Wow, that's so awesome. When I used to live in Japan, this was like years and years ago. I lived there for 17 years, and sites like these were pretty common, and I almost took it for granted. Now I miss it. Like, I'm in Canada, haven't been around, haven't been visiting Japan that often. But yeah, I mean, it just reminds me of, how exotic the place is and how appealing it is. It's got like the aesthetic beauty that you can't find anywhere else. So really, reminds me, I'm full of nostalgia at this point.
I can definitely imagine. And hopefully, for those of you who have never been to Japan, you'll be able to take some of the information that we're giving you here today and reach everyone that you are trying to in this market. In a way, reach out and touch them. And we hope to make them a little bit more real, just as like the backdrop that we have here today.
So So let's, I have a few questions for you, Ed. And I know you've lived there such a long time. So, who better than you to answer some of these questions? So I guess the first question I have is about the Japanese culture in general. What is the, cultural landscape at this point, and how are shoppers interacting with online e-commerce stores like Amazon or Rakuten or Yahoo and others that we keep hearing about? What is your insight on the online shopping and e-commerce space in Japan?
Okay, well, I'll start off with a few generalities. And so, first of all, the landscape. Amazon is one of the biggest. Then there is Rakuten e-commerce shopping, and we also have Yahoo shopping. And one of the key differences with some of these sites, for example, Yahoo Shopping also has a counterpoint for Yahoo Auctions, and that's mainly used goods. That's not really what the people who would come to PPC Ninja are interested in, but it is good information just to understand how diverse and separate some of the markets are. Simply put, there are the standard shopping sites, and then there are the auction sites, similar to what you would have with, say, eBay in the States. And I want to focus today on the three main sites, Amazon, Rakuten, and Yahoo, and the people who are likely to use those. And first, why don't we talk about some core numbers that we have here? And so when we look at Amazon and Rakuten, they actually dominate the market, and they have about 50 million people each in terms of users. And of course, there's some overlap with those users. And then you have Yahoo Shopping, which follows up, and they have about 30 million users nationwide. And what we've seen in the past year or so, and I'm sure that there are other similarities to this in other markets worldwide, it's that in the time of Corona, you have seen even more people relying on shopping. And what has happened is that there is a bit of change in what they are looking for. And so household goods have seen an incredible uptick in terms of what people are looking for on a regular basis. And so that's a little bit of trivia, just in terms of, say, the general marketplace and some of the factors that you can just keep in mind.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, so I have been watching the Amazon Japan market for a bit, and I almost think that they were neck to neck with Rakuten for a long time, but then I'm pretty sure that it was COVID that helped them reach
Yes.
the number one position, right? And so right now it's Amazon Japan and not Rakuten that holds the majority of the online shopping space, and that is super interesting to us, especially as we help a lot of sellers expand to Japan. And it's been fun kind of trying to do a lot of product to market fit analysis for a lot of our clients, because we see that a lot of products that are actually being sold worldwide on Amazon are also being sold on Japan. So it's almost like the world is becoming flatter and flatter. There was a time when the Amazon Japan marketplace was dominated by local brands or brands that speak to the traditional kind of Japanese products, but now I'm seeing you find everything there. I mean, with some of the global Amazon global selling settings, you can almost buy anything in any of the markets, and there is a demand that it's probably more discovery driven at this point, but there is a demand for all kinds of products. So with that, I want to just ask you about if you think there is any kind of special kind of products that you think Amazon Japan would be good for versus Rakuten? Or is it that both of them carry similar kind of products? What is your understanding about these two giants, and what kind of products might be good to sell on either one of them?
I think that, as always, it's a challenge for a lot of the sellers to come up with a winning portfolio of products. And so what winds up happening, because consumer tastes will also change, the environment that we're in. I mean, nowadays, almost everyone has somewhat acclimated to a world of Corona and COVID, but you do see some distinct changes in how Rakuten and Amazon have developed over time. As you were saying, Amazon has actually been in the lead for the past several years compared to Rakuten. And the margin was smaller before COVID, but they've now been able to pull ahead quite significantly by several million. There is another interesting thing that previously Rakuten actually had a very interesting demographic in that most of their users were women. Around, say, 60%, 70% were women compared to, say, 30, 40% for men. And Amazon was different. It had a tendency to be more men. And what we've seen is Amazon pull ahead, not just in absolute numbers, but then also overall balance is now more or less equal. And so that's also been very interesting. And that also is part of the selection that, say, Amazon does have. They've been able to have a selection that does appeal more. And there are different ranges of categories that are now available in Amazon Japan, and that follows on other markets. For example, the pantry service. The pantry service was introduced in Japan within the last 1 or 2 years, I believe. And that has seen an uptick in, say, usage by women who want to shop for their families and who might have a tendency to prefer some type of international brands. And it could be coffees, it could be beers. And so the pantry is one new feature, one new function of the site that has been proven very popular in the past.
So personally, do you shop on Amazon or do you shop more on Rakuten? Or is it a mix?
I am an Amazon shopper nowadays, but in the past, I was a Rakuten shopper.
Oh,
and it's really interesting about Rakuten is, so Amazon is an international brand that is competing in a domestic market. And of course, usually the domestic challenger has an advantage there. And so that is Rakuten. However, Amazon, through new features, better purchase funnels, they have been able to make the customer experience a little bit better. One thing that Amazon does nowadays that's rather interesting is from several years ago, they started points. And so points are a big thing in Japan. And this doesn't necessarily impact the sellers that would work with you, but Amazon decides the pricing structure, and then based on the amount of purchase, they will give points back as an incentive. And in the past, it was not as good as what I would see with standard Japanese sites, but they have improved the functionality and the appeal of that. And I think that is also going a long way to helping them out with securing more of the Japanese market from Rakuten.
Yeah, I heard about the point system, and I know that when I used to live in Japan, it wasn't there. So it's probably a very recent thing. And I immediately could relate to the idea of points because I know that, when I was in Japan, it was mostly a cash based society. Like credit cards really weren't so hot. Like even like about 5 years ago, I had to pay my grocery bills with cash. But the interesting thing was that there was always this plastic that I would carry around because I cared about the points. And
Yes,
and then over time you start to collect so many cards, you almost need like a little box to carry your cards
just
around.
the
Right,
cards.
that's so common in Japan. So yes, Japanese people just love their points, and I'm really, excited about the way Amazon has implemented the point system. So for those of you who don't understand the point system, I think it is something like 1 point for every 100 yen spent, or in a sense, it's it's similar to the credit card or air miles points that we collect here in the United States or North America. But every shop basically gives you, or every store would give you like a point card that you would just collect, and then you could redeem those points for merchandise or a discount or something like that. So Amazon implemented this, and this I think it's a percentage of your sale that goes directly to the shopper, which is really exciting. So I think kudos to Amazon for implementing that so well. I mean, now it's pretty prominent because you see how many points each seller is able to provide. So this is almost like an extra incentive that you can give to shoppers, because a point system will allow you to show up with a badge which is very prominent on your listing. So you can have coupons, you can have like deals and things like that, and you can have points. So it's really, really attractive and encouraging for shoppers. Let's talk a little bit about, we already touched upon the male female demographic, the gender demographic, but how about generations? Like, do you think, the younger generation are more likely to make the purchase? Because I know that in Japan, everybody has a cell phone, right? It's not something that is only restricted to the younger generation. So, having this very powerful device in their pockets at all times, it makes it almost like the de facto thing for shopping, right? The choice for shopping. But what about the older generation? Do they look to Amazon for, their needs, especially after COVID, when it's become such a big thing that, like you said, a lot of the women will shop online in Amazon pantry, but what about the older generation? Have they adapted to Amazon? Have they accepted it?
So I would say that the older generation actually, Rakuten has done better with that. And part of the reason why is the legacy of before smartphones, there were very unique Japanese handheld mobile phones, which were very popular here in the marketplace. And so Rakuten, Yahoo Shopping, the domestic players have done much better with the older generation. What Amazon does well is that with the younger generation, they are usually higher spenders. And so the size of their baskets per purchase is usually bigger than the older generation when it comes to e-commerce. And so that is one of the more interesting things that we've been able to pick up. And also the frequency of the younger generation, where Amazon is strong, the frequency of purchases is usually a lot higher. And so where there are different segments and age ranges where people might buy, say, once or twice, but there are some heavy users that can buy 2 or 3 times, or rather just in time. They view Amazon as a just in time type of service. And so they don't hesitate to order, especially if they can get the shipping for free. And so that's one of the benefits, generational benefits, that I think we do see with Amazon as a strength with the younger generations.
by and large, Japanese people do have a very deep sense of brand loyalty. Like when they like a product or like a brand, they generally go back for more, right? Is that something that you've also seen, or what is your impression about the brand loyalty?
Brand loyalty is really strong. And actually, when we talk about generations or the differences between male and female shoppers, many of the male shoppers on Amazon actually have a tendency to search for distinct brands. And if they cannot find a specific brand, the next thing that they will look for is quality. And so those are also some areas which sellers can try to carve out a niche for themselves, because not everything is always available all the time when you're looking for it. And being the seller who can provide something that can be seen as a quality stand-in for a branded item is very good. Or also, even better, if one of your sellers, for example, can carve out a niche for something very unique, and no one would have guessed this, but for example, masks. Over the past year, if you were a seller and you were able to carve out a niche for quality mask or hygiene products, whether it be hand liquids, cleansers, etc., and you become a de facto standard on Amazon, and as an up-and-coming seller or a best seller, that is definitely a way to carve out a branded niche on the site and raise your brands or list of brands to prominence there.
Another question I have is about price points. How price sensitive are people who are shopping online? Do you think shoppers go to Amazon for buying, under $50 products, 5,000 yen and under, or do you think they're also, open now to the idea of making higher ticket purchases?
Japanese people are definitely open to making higher ticket purchases online. Sometimes you will find other types of factors that wind up influencing their purchase decisions. Some of these decisions are going to be outside of your seller's hands. For example, the amount of shipping fees. In the case of male shoppers, that becomes an increasing concern. How much is the extra shipping? With female shoppers, actually their real concern is bargain shopping. And so they are very, very price sensitive even before we get into things such as shipping, etc. And that also mirrors the older demographic that you might, in the case of sellers who are thinking about this, younger women and older generations, they have the same type of tendencies. They're value shoppers more than anything else. And that is before they get to, say, shipping fees. Whereas men are more interested in shipping because it's seen as an extra cost. And so that's a very interesting thing just to keep in mind.
Wow, that is interesting. So, on Amazon, sellers have the ability to create bundles, and that is something that can drive more sales. With a single customer, you can sell 2 products instead of 1 if you have some sort of bundle, or if you kind of package 2 or 3 different related products and make it a single ASIN, then it becomes more attractive. I'm not sure if that aligns with your example of women looking for deals and bargains, but I almost think that might be one of the ways in which people can drive more sales by attracting shoppers with more than just one product. So
I would have to agree with you there, because the bundles are a very interesting way to upsell. And for people who are very savvy, being able to adjust and look at that data for what bundles work, because some bundles will not work. And you will not know which until you try. Because a lot of these things, even if you're pushing the bundle, You may not know which will hit with the consumers, but the consumers will definitely help inform you if you are able to push out bundles like that. And so that was also a way to upsell, particularly among price sensitive people, because they start to think, the perception is that, well, the bundle is a bargain.
Okay, I'm going to switch topics just a little bit, and talk about, external traffic and how you can make the brand be, recognized outside of Amazon so that we can drive some traffic to it. Have you experienced, advertising outside of Amazon that drives you back to Amazon? Have you been followed by those ads that you see everywhere on the internet?
I've been followed by those ads, and I use those ads. Several of my clients are overseas alcohol brands. And so I run the social media for those clients. And so we're on Facebook and Instagram, and we will usually include drive-to campaigns. And so these drive-to campaigns, because we're using Facebook ads, because we're using other types of ad network platforms, these ads will follow people around. And the goal is to build up the large funnel of awareness and then eventually drive people to the point of purchase. And what we can say is that is a very effective way for you to take the chance to expand your presence beyond just Amazon and pull people in so that they can get into your overall shopping funnel and retargeting funnel, because this is actually what's so important. As you said, the ads will follow you around for a while. And so if you are truly interested in making sure that you're very competitive and that you're reaching the Japanese consumer the right way, definitely social media and performance-driven ads, say on Facebook or Instagram, is a definite way that you can help drive overall awareness and appeal of your product. I've done it myself for my own clients and brands, and I would highly recommend that. One thing to say, though, is that you must take care to not just translate. We, as an agency, one of the things we try and emphasize to our clients is that you have to transcreate and adapt. And this, I've had larger clients in the world of high-end fashion jewelry, larger footwear clients, etc. And these are global brands, and even they will struggle sometimes in getting this right. And one way that you can beat them is to take the extra effort to make sure that you have localized and adapted to the native Japanese audience, powerful copywriting imagery that matches their marketplace. I have seen large companies fail at this, and so I would definitely recommend this as a chance for smaller companies to get a leg up.
Yeah, I love that. Even with some of the clients that we work with, we're trying to drive traffic through many channels as well, just as you mentioned. And one of the important channels when it comes to advertising for Amazon is DSP, which is demand side platform. And it's exciting that we have this opportunity to run DSP campaigns in Japan in the local language. And it's, as you said, I totally agree. It's so important to not just translate your English listings or your English copy and just, have a Japanese version of that. A lot of people will, cut corners there, but then pay for it later. So it's really good and important to kind of invest in a brand strategy and make sure that your copy is, vetted by, local native experts so that, you're starting your journey in Japan on the right foot.
On that point, and there's one thing I would like to add, and this comes from my own personal experience. Mm-hmm. And so I fit the standard male demographic of, I like the electronics. I like the higher ticket items. And so sometimes I will search for a product. I will look at the bundles, and then I will try and go to the storefront to find something specific that might match me. I have been amazed at how many global brands do not have a proper storefront. The proper selection isn't there. Even going into Amazon search, I cannot find the product that I'm looking for. And I know it's there because I found it 2 weeks beforehand. And this is one example of brands that somehow are missing the ball in terms of what it takes to maintain a good presence. And because a lot of the sellers that we work with, they are smaller businesses, I want to emphasize where you should spend your effort. And it starts with the small things, the product descriptions, how you tell people and inform people about your product, but then also your presence, not just the products as a brand, but your store as a brand. And so when we were talking earlier of how sensitive Japanese people are to, say, brands and how open they are to becoming loyal, it is hard to convince Japanese people to become loyal, but once you have them, you usually will keep them. Okay, as long as you do not mess up the relationship. So one way not to mess up the relationship is definitely making sure you're talking to people in the right language that appeals to them.
You know, there's another thing that I've seen in Japan, which is this tendency for things to really go viral. And I think it's because of how homogenous the society is. You know, when you have an influencer maybe, or a social media, celebrity of sorts that kind of endorses your product, or, you know, is seen using your product, it just creates, a pull that just brings everybody along, especially people who are affiliated with that sort of demographic or that segment of the audience. I'm just wondering if you have any experience with influencers. Is TikTok the next big thing, or which other, which other social media platform is hot right now? Do you have any insights on that?
Well, I would say for us, and I'll talk about the liquor brands that we dealt with, you would be surprised at what counts as an influencer. And so for us, of course, we're dealing with alcohols. And so it's a slightly older demographic. The golden demographic is, of course, 25 to 35, but we also had whiskeys. And so whiskeys, the golden demographic actually rises up to, say, 35 or 40, all the way to, say, 60 plus. And you have to think, well, who are going to be the influencers for that? And it proved to be, say, Facebook and Instagram, which were very useful to us. But the influencers that we had were actual bars and venues in places like, say, Ginza, downtown Tokyo. And these are older establishments. They're not really on social themselves, but we went and made social for them that featured our brands. And we then ran the campaigns on Facebook and Instagram. And it was really amazing because Facebook has a better professional, say, demographic that we could appeal to here in Japan. And Instagram, we wound up finding that we had a very good exposure to the female demographic on Instagram, just because of the features of the program, et cetera. And this worked for both photography and also video. And so I would say that companies that have an interest of really connecting on that visceral level, the whole thing about influencers and what influencers do is they help convert the brand's language to something that is emotional and that people can feel. And so I would definitely recommend that to brands that are interested in connecting with consumers in a very strong and powerful way. You had mentioned TikTok. And so yes, TikTok is an up and coming demographic, especially for a younger target audiences. And so you have to kind of think, does it make sense for you to be there with your brand? I know that in the States, we've had, Cranberry cran apple juice and ocean spray. Not everyone can be ocean spray.
Right.
However, there are some ways that you can approach grassroots marketing with social media.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And one new trend that I've noticed with TikTok and other similar social media channels is that, there's a lot of challenges that are happening, the hashtag challenges, all kinds of challenges. And people are actually looking for those keywords on Amazon. Like if they see a challenge that they're part of, chances are that a lot of those make their way into Amazon searches. And it is very interesting because, you can almost like, what's the right word for it? Trend jacking.
Yes.
If there's a trend on TikTok or any of the other popular social media channels, like you want to be listening to those trends so that you could maybe translate those into keywords. And we at PPC Ninja, we're all about keywords and, finding the right words to bid on through PPC. And so, knowing the market and understanding where the trends are happening is super important, I think.
Yes, I definitely agree with you there. And it's one of those things where you want to be very focused. If you're going to jack a trend, jack the right trend. And I have seen some brands, they become a little bit too aggressive with it. And when we start talking about targeted ads, tracked ads, etc., you don't want to get too far off of what your brand is really about, what the problem or issue that your brand or product is really selling to solve for consumers. But by staying ahead, it does help you stay that much farther in front of the competition.
Just want to conclude this with one last question for you, which is, what in your opinion are some of the best practices around marketing in Japan? What are the do's and don'ts? What are the things that brands should be careful about when they decide to take that step into Japan?
I'll talk from a very realistic perspective from what most sellers will encounter. The first thing that you probably want to do is get the proper listing on Amazon. First and foremost, get the proper type of listing in Japanese, and whether it's 1 or 2 products, whether it's 10 products, make sure that they have been thoroughly well written, translated, and adapted for the Japanese market, first and foremost. Next, work on your storefront. The other types of features, the bundles, etc., that all comes after making sure that your initial product lineup has been launched. The other things that you can do that will also help with Japanese consumers is once consumers receive the package and open it up, if it is something that has a manual in it or other types of information, you do want to spend time when it is possible to make sure that that is also translated into Japanese. It will go a long way to making sure that the experience that your end consumers has is that much better. However, if you are dealing with, say, 10-page manuals or, God forbid, 20-page manuals, the cost can be somewhat overwhelming. And so what you can then think of is making sure that you at least have a customized greeting. It can be very small. It can be, a postcard size or even smaller that says, hello to people in Japanese. Thank you for purchasing our product. Please stay with us on our journey as we are launching and making ourselves more available to Japan. And that, just including that type of card and that type of greeting, as you are starting off or as soon as possible after you are starting off, can go a long way. And then the other branching out for a full kind of native language presence, that can come later. But that would be something that I would recommend as realistic steps to approach the Japanese market here.
Excellent. Yeah, I just love those tips. One thing just to piggyback of what you said about having, a welcome or a greeting in the local language is, some of the brands that we work with, they try to have their manuals be covered in every language so that it is a cost thing, right? It's when you create your packaging and you create your materials, you will want to have a single manual, but then make sure that all the languages that you're selling,
Yes.
or the countries that you're selling in, those languages are covered. So that alone makes a lot of difference, and can help you bring down the cost while still taking care of the thing that you mentioned, which is connecting with the local presence
And
there.
I would also, I think one brand that comes to mind is a photography brand, Manfrotto. And I use a lot of their lights. Matter of fact, I'm using some of their lights right now. And one of the things that they do with their manuals is they're very graphic based. And because they're graphic based and visual based, they've actually cut down on the amount of languages that they include, because everyone understands the graphics and the arrows, press here, slide in here. And so it's not possible for every brand, but some brands where it's possible for graphic-based manuals, that could also be an approach for them.
Yeah, that just reminds me of IKEA. They just have like visuals, that's it. That's their
Yes.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, this was so interesting. I really enjoyed talking with you, Ed. I wish, we could have more time, but definitely, I would love people to reach out to you if they have any questions. So would you like to share what is the best way for people to reach you and where they can find you?
Okay. I will make sure to send along a URL, a link, and you can access that link, and you will be able to find the different profiles for my business, the website, LinkedIn profile, and you can feel free to reach out to me. And also on the profile, one of the things I also do is I teach at several universities around Japan, and I've started an online academy for marketing information. And so this is not just specific to Japan, this is marketing in general. And so anybody who needs a touch up on marketing and advertising, you can join the online academy and stay in touch there as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I really, I want to check that out myself. So for people, I will make sure to get that URL from Ed, and I'll make sure to link it in wherever this video is being shown. I'll make sure to link it in the comments below. All right. Well, thank you so much, Ed, for your time and your expertise, your knowledge. I really had a good time chatting with you, and I will see you soon again.
All right. Thank you very much, Ritu. I'd like to say domo arigatou gozaimashita to PCPC Ninja for allowing me to join them here today.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Ed. Take care.
Okay. Take care.